Dead Space is thankfully coming back, but where I would have preferred a proper sequel or even a remastered collection, we are getting a remake. Honestly, I am more in the campaign that a few remakes here and there are fine, especially when it's potentially needed, or even could benefit from a redo. But I never felt Dead Space was a title that needed the remake treatment. When I think back on the game, I have fond memories of one of the finest survival horror games I have played. But maybe nostalgia was getting the better of me, so I sat down and played the original again, and it holds up really well. It could benefit from higher resolutions and unlocked frame rates, but a remake feels very much unneeded for this title. It doesn't feel dated, and honestly in many ways it feels better than much of the pretentious junk that we see in the AAA space. With the remake coming out soon, I wanted to take a quick look back at the original. A game's opening level or hour is really important. It needs to grab the player or they might turn it off and go on to something else. For what is the sales pitch for the entire game, Dead Space 1 does this masterfully. Something I really liked about this game is how the player is almost always in control. Even from the opening moments we have control. It might just be the camera, but it is something, and very much keeps the player in the position that they are driving the experience. Story-wise, the opening chapter hits many of the expected checkboxes in a sci-fi horror genre. You are on a mission to investigate something that has gone dark. While on the mission, something goes wrong, and now it's up to you to fight for your life. Small moments are peppered throughout to help enhance the drama. We see that our two main crew members have a lot of tension between each other, and the mystery is set up well. What is the meaning behind the video of Isaac's wife, and what went wrong on this ship, and who are these life forms? Story is consistently delivered to the player, and again, you are always in control. You might be finding audio logs providing quick bits of narrative about what happened before you got there. Video from other crew members as well. And while all of this is going on, you are still free to move around, explore, and in some cases even be in combat.
Alright, you heard the lady. Take us in, let's see what needs fixing.
Gravity tethers engaged. Automatic docking procedures a go.
What the hell?
Sir, the auto dock.
What is it?
We're off track. We're gonna hit the hull.
Hit the blast shields! That guidance tether's damaged. Switch to manual, now!
Inside the magnetic field? Are you insane? Abort!
No! We can make it inside! Corporal, I gave you an order.
Now, the most important element of a game is its gameplay, and in the case of Dead Space, it sets up its opening gameplay loop very well in its very first level. Of course, the rest of the game adds on to this with more abilities, set pieces, and cool sequences, but the core action is presented, established, and cemented all within the first level. Once you obtain the plasma cutter, you are now entering the loop of Dead Space, finding supplies, fighting enemies, and repairing something on the ship. I love how the developers flipped a 180 on how shooting is done for their game. In most shooters, you'll want to aim for the head, usually resulting in doing more damage. But for Dead Space, that isn't how this works. You need to go for the limbs, and this simple idea is really creative, and helps to factor into Dead Space's identity. Now, when you see an enemy, you are trying to determine which limb is the best one to shoot. Maybe you might go for the leg to impair their movement, and then aim for an arm. The gunplay is very satisfying. The sounds are unique and satisfying with quality impact results from all of your arsenal. Simply put, I love the shooting in Dead Space, and the creative enemies helps to keep things scary and interesting. Dead Space is a fairly linear experience with plenty of options to explore. You are rewarded for seeking out side rooms for more supplies, money, and ammo. The design helps to keep the adventure tight and focused without having any bloat, while also being able to take a few moments and scratch that exploration itch. It doesn't feel like you're on rails, but rather being provided this expertly curated experience that lets the player be the primary driver behind it. There's a lot of little details that enhance the immersion. For one, your health is located on your back, so the information is always visible to the player, and allows the game to not have a HUD that clutters the screen. The lack of a traditional HUD means your eyes are more naturally drawn to everything in the game, rather than all the numbers and meters. Even looking at your inventory is a fun pop-up menu that has you still in the game world. Both the art style and sound play a big part in presenting that sense of dread. Dead Space looks dirty, like something from the 80s. It has a grit to its presentation that gives off the impression that many areas of the game are held together with little more than duct tape. Oftentimes you will hear things things in the vents or even just areas of the ship malfunctioning, and this can really put you on edge, even in an area that ends up having no enemies in it. Dead Space really keeps you guessing. In the first level, you have a handful of combat encounters, and each one is memorable. Whether it is running away from the first breakout of the necromorphs, using the plasma cutter for the first time, or even the first time an enemy gets you from behind, and all you see is a piece of the enemy and are completely shocked by it. Enemies will often pop in and out of vents at scripted moments in this level, and it very much makes you suspicious of any of those that you come across. These are enjoyable surprises, but at the same time, the game is teaching the player to always be on edge and questioning what they see. An enemy might be playing dead on the ground, and if you decide to shoot them rather than move towards them, you can get the leg up on them. Thankfully, the first level, just like the entire game, does a good job with providing a well done set of ebbs and flows to the action. Dead Space does give the player time to breathe, which allows the action to come down for a bit, so that the tension can build back up again and explode. It isn't firing at 11 all the time, so the game doesn't become exhausting. Instead, just like many areas of the game, it feels very well paced. Besides the plasma cutter, you get to see one of your most useful tools in the first level, stasis. This allows you to send out a blast that will slow down an enemy and give you the time to handle multiple foes at once, reload, escape, among other things. The first time I played through this game, I exclusively used the stasis with the plasma cutter. Now towards the end of the level, you will be presented with a shop. I really like how the upgrades work in Dead Space. It all comes down to player choice and allows the player to have a lot of ownership for the experience. As you go throughout the level, you will collect money. This can be used to buy enhancements for your suit, new guns, ammo, health, and more. This means it all comes down to how you want to play the game and what you want to focus on. You can be the type to hold a lot of ammo over health. Maybe you only take a minimal amount so that you can go out with more inventory spaces free to grab more stuff. Or maybe you focus on suit upgrades and increasing your armor. Nodes can be found and collected, and this is where you can select incremental upgrades for your suit and weapons. The upgrade paths are set, but it's your choice on what to focus on for your playstyle. From the cinematic elements to how the story is delivered, the gameplay, and genuine scares, along with the progression, Dead Space grabs the player right from the start and doesn't let go. My point with this video is to show that there is a reason that Dead Space 1 is beloved by so many, and why so many would like to see it come back. It's because it holds up incredibly well. Gameplay-wise, this still feels like a modern title, even though it was released back on the PS3. And execution-wise, Dead Space is vastly superior to many big titles even released today. This is not a title that needs a remake, and like I said at the start, it needs to be remastered, so that it's more accessible to more people. I think time would have been better spent on a remastered collection and a sequel over a remake of the first game. The first game is close to perfect. It doesn't need the remake treatment. That being said, there are some elements about the remake that could be good, but overall I'm concerned about it. I think I would have more confidence in it if a better developer was making it. It's being made by EA Motive, and they have yet to make a stellar game. They made the campaign for EA's Battlefront 2, and while I really enjoyed the co-op and multiplayer in that title, the single-player campaign was easily the worst part about it. Their second game was Star Wars Squadrons, which was fine, but not something that was really good. It was just okay with decent gameplay. Now maybe they can take what they have learned and really knock it out of the park for the Dead Space remake, but when you compare Redwood Shores before they made Dead Space, they made great Lord of the Rings games and Bond games with EA before jumping into Dead Space. EA Motive does not have a solid catalog of titles to give me confidence in their ability. Now while I don't think Dead Space needs a remake, I would prefer a good new game over a bad one, so hopefully they do well here. Either way, I think EA should release a classic remastered set of the Dead Space trilogy, so the originals as they were released can be available to the players. What are your thoughts on the original game? Are you excited for the remake, and is it even needed? Let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.